The mysterious stranger. It was a cold autumn evening when Daniel first saw him. The stranger stood at the edge of the old bridge, his coat billowing slightly in the wind, his face hidden beneath the brim of a worn-out hat. The small town of Willow Creek was quiet that night, except for the sound of leaves rustling and the occasional distant howl of a dog. Daniel, a young man burdened by the weight of life's struggles, was walking home after another exhausting day. His job at the diner barely covered rent, and his dreams of becoming a writer had faded into nothing more than scribbled notes in a forgotten notebook. Something about the stranger unsettled him. Was it the way he stood still, as if waiting for someone? Or the fact that no one else seemed to notice him? As Daniel passed, the man spoke. His voice was deep, calm, almost hypnotic. "You look like someone searching for answers." Daniel stopped in his tracks. He hadn't spoken a word, yet the man somehow knew. "Who are you?" Daniel asked, his voice cautious. The stranger chuckled softly. "Someone who has seen many crossroads, someone who has met many lost souls." Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. "And what do you do? Help lost souls?" The man lifted his head slightly, revealing piercing gray eyes that seemed to see right through Daniel. Only those willing to listen. A long silence followed. Daniel didn't know why, but something compelled him to stay. "All right," he finally said. "I'm listening." And so, the stranger began to speak. Most people walk through life believing they have time. But time is like sand slipping through your fingers. You only notice it when it's almost gone. Daniel listened, intrigued. "You hesitate, don't you?" The stranger continued. "You think of writing, but you never start. You dream of adventure, but you never leave. You're waiting. But for what?" Daniel's throat tightened. The man was right. I don't know. Maybe I'm afraid." The stranger nodded. "Fear, the most common prison of them all. But let me tell you something, Daniel. Fear is only as powerful as you allow it to be." The wind picked up, carrying the sound of rustling leaves through the night. "What if I fail?" Daniel asked quietly. "Then you learn." The simplicity of the answer shook Daniel. The stranger continued. "Do you know what the saddest words in the world are?" Daniel shook his head. "What if?" The man's voice was almost a whisper. "What if I had tried? What if I had spoken up? What if I had taken the chance?" These words haunt more people than failure ever could. Daniel felt something stir deep inside him. "So, what do I do?" he asked. The stranger smiled. "You begin." The next night, Daniel found himself back at the bridge. The stranger was there, as if expecting him. "Tell me," the man said, "if you could change one thing in your life right now, what would it be?" Daniel hesitated. "I would stop doubting myself." The man nodded approvingly. "Good. Now, do you know what that requires?" "Confidence?" The man shook his head. "Action. Confidence comes later. You don't need to believe in yourself fully. You just need to act." Daniel exhaled, feeling the weight of those words. The man continued. "Every day, life gives you choices. Small ones, big ones. They all shape who you become. The problem is, most people let life choose for them. But you can decide." Daniel clenched his fists. He had spent years letting fear dictate his life. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to take control. Days passed, and Daniel kept meeting the stranger. Each conversation left him thinking, questioning, changing. Then, one evening, the man was waiting at the bridge with an old notebook. "This is for you." Daniel took it hesitantly. "What's inside?" The man smiled. "A single blank page. The rest is for you to fill." Daniel looked up, but before he could speak, the stranger was gone. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something he hadn't before: hope. That night, he sat at his desk, opened the notebook, and began to write. He didn't know where the words would take him. But for once, he wasn't afraid. And as the ink filled the pages, Daniel realized the truth. The stranger had never been there to give him answers. He had been there to remind him that the answers were always within him. Moral of the story: the only way to escape fear is to move forward. The only way to truly live is to choose your own path.